we've just obviously covered Liam Byrne has just been convicted. So this is an interesting one. In the case of Liam Byrne and Sean Kent, how do investigators prove he is behind the encrypted messages like those sent through the EncroChat network? If the individuals deny using the phones, what kind of evidence or techniques are used to link specific people to the devices? Now, this is an interesting one. Obviously, with Liam Byrne, the difference is, and we've seen this again and again with EncroChat, that people have pled guilty. You were in court, so they'll describe at that discount, I think it was 25% or something, instantly you get with a guilty plea. So the courts, the police didn't have to prove it effectively.
Yeah.
Because they admitted doing it.
And that's been in loads of EncroChat cases.
So people are really, it's like a bet. Are you going to, stick or twist? And most of them are sticking. They're saying, how EncroChat obviously works and how the police have managed to prove people guilty have been, because people use these handles, the handle, as they broke through, that would give you a kind of a geolocation, which would be maybe a street, but that's not enough to convict somebody. But then they've used all sorts of other things. Mostly they're chatter with each other.
Yeah.
People congratulating them on their birthday. There was guys taking pictures of their dogs.
Some of them even had pictures of their new cars with the regs on them and stuff like that. So yeah, they used it. I suppose they were so at that point in time, and before it was, they realised it was a hack. They believed it to be bulletproof.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were quite free and open with their conversations, and they spoke about things like, they'd been to weddings, or they had, or such and such, their
kids
had been, having such and such a party. They'd maybe name locations. So it was easy then to sort of start piecing together the jigsaw on it.
So, I mean, the second part of that question is, would the police and the Gardaí not have transcripts from that handle and possibly other criminal offences like drugs or murder?
They do have transcripts from the handle, yeah. I mean, there was 199 pages of transcripts in the case against Bomber Kavanagh, Liam Byrne and Sean Kent. And it was largely, and it was over that period of time, most of it in May, as Bomber was getting increasingly aggressive about having these guns purchased so as he could plant them and try and get off prison.
They're doubly screwed because Liam Byrne pled guilty to possession of weapons or conspiracy to possess, but they really helped him out by telling the police where the weapons were, because just the chat alone would not have been enough to convict him. But the problem was that the police dug them up on their instructions and therefore could link.
A year later.
Yes, so they could link the messages then to the hardware that they've received. And then they only have to link the handle to the person.
Exactly, so they kind of made it easy for them in that case.
Exactly, so if Liam Byrne, and I mean there have been people...
Which I actually found curious because... At that point that Kavanagh in Dovegate prison goes and looks to speak to the police and his lawyer starts giving the information, he knew at that stage that they had done these deals on EncroChat. He didn't have an EncroChat phone himself. He was using somebody in the prison as a conduit to get information to others involved in the plot. And they were conversing on EncroChat and sending messages, etc. But, he obviously thought he'd got away with it again, or that he'd got away with it because he didn't have an EncroChat phone.
I don't know. I mean, it is a curious bit of it.
It seems kind of slightly stupid, no?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly...
I mean, would you not err on the side of caution when you knew that you were trying to get this thing done on EncroChat phones during the time period that the hack was live?
You would think so. I mean, look, this is the other thing you see with these criminals. For all of their undoubted smarts, for all of their ability to manage these multi-million euro operations, they tend to have a reckless streak, and it's that reckless streak that really brings them down. Liam Byrne's transcripts, no doubt, provided to the Gardaí, but he hasn't pled guilty to being that person on EncroChat, if you know what I mean. Now, he's pled guilty to the offence of weapons. He didn't, so he's admitted that.
Well, the EncroChat messages were read in the sentence hearing.
They were, but what I mean is the Gardaí couldn't...
The NCA.
They would, but if the Gardaí were to get his messages, they would then still have to prove he was that
For
person.
separate criminal proceedings.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. So although he's pled guilty, and I'm sure they could use that, maybe they could, or maybe his lawyers would say that's a different jurisdiction, that shouldn't be allowed in. The guards will still have to go from year zero to prove that's him on that EncroChat. And,
Now, we haven't used,
No.
the first of the EncroChat cases maybe is sort of that strange situation where the evidence is before the court for extradition purposes.
Yeah.
But would they have to, you see, all the challenges to EncroChat have fallen down, which is why you're seeing that there's a huge amount of guilty pleas. It's been repeatedly challenged whether or not police can use the information that comes off EncroChat, and in many jurisdictions, and they've just failed again and again.
Yeah, but they haven't tried it in Ireland, so they haven't failed. And the other thing for Liam Byrne is, so say Liam is over in England and he's arranging these criminal activities, can the guards prosecute him for what he did in England? I mean, that's another matter. They possibly could if they can connect it to having a result in Ireland, if he was directing people in Ireland or whatever. So there is going to be, there is also a jurisdiction thing. But, in this case, with the bomber case, it was all really, now I know they were sourcing guns from Holland, but it was all in the one jurisdiction. So that's another, these things are by their nature complicated.
In other words, are you wondering, could there be a possibility that there's more for Liam Byrne here? Could he be charged in this jurisdiction with directing a criminal organisation, which he's already been named as being the head of in the High Court?
Yeah, I mean,
proceedings, the Byrne Organised Crime Group.
But I would imagine if that was to be the case, that would have to be for what he did in Ireland, as opposed to.
Well, would it?
Well, it would,
because you can direct from abroad.
You can direct, but you have to be directing people in Ireland, if you know what I mean. So he couldn't be prosecuted.
Well, the guns were, from what came out in the court case, they did try and get the guns in a number of different jurisdictions and places in Manchester and Liverpool, and then it appears that the guns were got in Ireland. Certainly a portion of them. They were transported to Newry. Buried there. It's a complex case.
It is a complex case.
So
the jurisdictions are going to be. I mean, I don't know if you've seen what's happening with the Sky UCC hack. There is a case coming before the courts in the Netherlands, a challenge against that. And what has been said now in court by the Americans is that they had an agent
selling
the phones. So not setting it up, it was set up, but then they inserted an agent to
sell them,
to become one of the dealers, and that's becoming an issue because it wasn't that they hacked into it, but they actually had a person giving out the handsets to the criminals, or whether that's an informant or somebody they turned is not specifically clear. So look, there may yet be challenges, and Ireland, of course, is totally virgin territory for any of these challenges because people haven't come before the courts to challenge it yet.